like we never know which version of Greg we're gonna get. Look at this guy now,
Sorry.
right?
A mess. A mess. I'm sorry. Today, this week, I'm like scraping by, guys.
He'll one like on one week he'll come out with a no screwing around 3-piece suit, and then
Literally.
he's like like a stage shirt, right? He looks like he's falling on hard times. He's struggling.
Yeah, dude. I am. Yeah, yeah. It's been weird. My life has been all weird with I got my kids have been sick, and it's just been like still just like a crazy thing. And then
I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, I mean they're okay. I mean it's just like they just had like pneumonia, walking pneumonia, and just having to deal with that and stuff. So it's just been really frustrating. And but yeah, everything is it's going good otherwise. So that's been good. We got some cool updates. We're really working on the nonprofit stuff. So we're really like building out those tools for people to organize and contact their representatives in order to act for the pledge. So I've been working on that really hard. Should be coming out like sometime this week, I think. So that's cool. And yeah, I'm excited. So
Fantastic. Happy to hear it.
yeah, thanks, man. All right, guys. Well, we have some interesting news. This week it's kind of been like a it's kind of like I think there was like a Lancet review. There was some public policy polling and kind of like talking about like the 1 year of kind of like this MAHA movement stuff, and also the Lancet wrote like a scathing editorial, which they really never do. It's actually pretty wild. So where do you guys want to start? What are you thinking?
Wherever it is that you want to start. I also hear some feedback.
Yeah, let me mute you there. There we go.
Corey, check out the group down.
Oh yeah, let me do that too.
Yep.
But I think there's overlap with the Lancet article and the CNBC article that Prime posted.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much like just overall widespread disapproval of RFK Jr. and how pretty much there's a strong case that, you know, everything is going off the rails under his quote unquote leadership. Unlike, as they allude to, there's damage being done that's probably going to take, you know, years or if not decades to repair and recover from.
Let's say their theory of the case is real and it's all like vitamin A deficiency or something. Like the vitamin A deficiency crowd hasn't been able to stop the spread of measles, you know, in the country. You know, it's still exponentially increasing in the United States. Like there's, you know, so many new cases. It's unfathomable. I mean, you can't be healthy by spreading disease. I mean, it's that simple. And I mean, that's just the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's going on in South Carolina? I probably should have posted it, but there was a long New York Times article documenting. Well, you've covered it before, but like going into like detail of what's the measles outbreak in South Carolina and how, yeah, just like across the board, due to they bring up this issue as you brought up before, and we've spoken about of religious exemptions for vaccination and how like in schooling lots of parents are using them and we just see low vaccination rates in schools and they like highlight this one school. It's a school that seemed to let's say cater or like this population of people from Russia and Ukraine that were largely like religious and like their vaccination rate was like 20% and so like essentially nothing.
It's ridiculous.
And like, yeah, that was like under no surprise, like a hotspot or like you know, case zero for a huge outbreak. It went from like one case to like 1,000 in like a pretty short amount of time.
So the CNBC article is kind of like centered around a poll. And I'm curious, like your thoughts, Prime, and stuff. Like confidence in custodians of public health. Like how confident, if at all, are you that blank is providing the public with trustworthy information? Here, I'll put it in our chat. So, and the number one with 46% very confident that this is a trustworthy information about matters concerning public health. Number one is 46% is the primary care provider.
Mm-hmm.
And then ranked close, the number 2 is the AHA, and then 3 is the AAP. But then 4 is Dr. Fauci, former NIAID director. So I think that's like really interesting that like even the smear campaign, he's still a very big trusted name in this thing.
I mean, some people on the right wanted to have pretty much like tried and executed to that extent.
Yeah, they wanted crimes like to be like literally had him wanted that to go after him. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's pretty hilarious, honestly. So I mean, I'm bearing the lead here. The for folks who haven't seen this this polling, it's that Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. are the least trusted.
Yeah.
Are the least trusted. And it's fun, and it's like humiliating for them, and I love every minute of it. Yeah. So like, and it's just like an overall failure, right? Like how it shows that these social media personalities, and Dr. Roz like is effectively that too, right? Elevated by Oprah Winfrey, and Dr. Oz is different from like what was the other one, Dr. Phil, because like
but both horrible. And I wonder if Oprah feels any regret for elevating these people.
For real.
Yeah. But yeah. So Dr. Oz like was like more of a real doctor, and he started off, like giving like real advice on his show, like his TV show way back in the day. But then he like transitioned. Like he famously said, like talking about how like selling like as supplements like is like BS, right? Like that type of stuff. Then he started selling supplements on the show. He realized, oh, that's where the money is, and he just started doing that. And he became a complete mess of a human being. And so yeah, I love seeing this. Awful.
Yeah, they have the highest no confidence, not confident at all, which is pretty interesting. Like it's strong negative, the strongest negative that you could have in the poll. Yeah, and then career scientists versus health agency leaders. 2/3 of Americans, 67%, have confidence in career scientists working at the U.S. federal health agencies, compared with just 43% confidence in agency leaders overall. So it's like the career scientists that are actually working in there somehow have interestingly more confidence than the leaders of them, which is I mean that's kind of like a good thing too, since it seems like more politicized, right?
It's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And that maybe trust in institutions has not been irreparably eroded, or let's say there's hope that maybe can be restored. But it's a sad state of affairs. Like I'm also with Prime of like I love to see the overall disapproval or the lack of trust in the figures of Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. But then at least there's the other side for me of like, well, it's also a sad state of affairs. Like these are the people that were appointed or selected to quote unquote restore trust in these institutions. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Confidence in experts outside of the government. So kind of like that institutional, that institutions, people have a greater trust in major health and science associations outside of the government. We were talking about the American Heart Associations, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, the National Academy of Science, than in the health agencies themselves. which is like kind of like again, like I think it's just showing. I don't. I mean, there's no breakdown for Republicans versus Democrats on this. So I wonder if that's just aligning, because it probably is like a strong distrust from the Democrats and then a strong like. But at the same time, like,
That would be my suspicion as well. But yeah, it's
but
speculation.
even still, let's say every single Republican's had a very confident in Dr. Oz and RFK Jr. That's still, to Prime's point, that's only 7 to 9%, which is, and you'd think that MAGA would be 30% at least of the poll. So even they are a little not. It doesn't seem like they're even that confident.
Yeah, something must be happening, because I agree with you. Just by the numbers alone, I would assume that there is, despite all of this happening, there is some proportion of MAGA that, like, yeah, maybe is waking up to the fact that these are not trustworthy people and they should have been selected.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just don't understand what's happening with like the rise of measles and stuff. I think like maybe because of the pandemic and stuff, they don't understand like that this just wasn't a thing before, or maybe people are realizing that we didn't have these outbreaks and stuff that are happening when they're happening everywhere. I mean, I see, on my feed and stuff, I do see news reports of like local stations covering it, so specifically a lot. I mean, imagine living in South Carolina right now. I mean, you have hundreds of people in quarantine and stuff. That's very odd. That's going to be very odd to have happen.
Yeah, and in the New York Times article that I read just earlier today, that I think was published in the past 2 or 3 days, like I said, pretty much giving a more detailed accounting of what's going on in South Carolina, and they highlight this issue of, like, they're obviously understandably trying to boost vaccination rates, to the point that, like, they have like these roaming vans where people can just like go and show up to get a vaccination, or show up with their kids to get vaccination, and despite that, like they're saying, like, it's pretty much like there's still not much uptake, or like it's like these vans are like they station themselves outside of schools or other like populated areas, and like they maybe get like a couple people in like an 8-hour window. But they're also mentioning that, like, they're when they're overall tracking vaccination rates, like there's an uptake in vaccination rates of like people getting vaccinated, but it seems like some people are doing it sort of like underground, or they don't want the public to know. Or like they're going to their doctors, they don't want to show up to these public places or these public vaccination sites, sort of acquiescing or making it known, like, oh, I now recognize that maybe I made a mistake, and so I need to actually go to my doctor in private, get my kids or myself vaccinated. And I thought that was an interesting phenomenon of like just yeah, the pride and ego itself is sort of preventing these people from getting publicly vaccinated. They have to like go out of their way to make sure that it's sort of like underground or hidden to a certain respect.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But at least vaccination rates seem to be increasing, still well below the required 95% for immunity against measles.
That's the problem, man. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take that many people. It's pretty remarkable getting 95% of people on board with honestly anything nowadays. I feel like it's sad to say, but it does feel that way.
It is a monumental task, but like Canada and the U.S. was there at one point, and something obviously
years ago. It's not like this is like some crazy. I still that stat where over 99% of Alabama was vaccinated because they didn't allow any personal or religious exemptions. I mean, number one vaccination rate in the country, Alabama, and Mississippi too. They're up there 1 and 2. Just unbelievable, man. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, and that's impressive. Like, if I was a gambling person, I would not put my money on Alabama having that high.
I know, dude. I couldn't. I looked it up and I was like, oh, I'm curious where it was, like what would be like the big public health state, and it's like, nope, it's just a really strong regulatory, mandatory thing. That's all it is. I mean, like regulations create jobs, regulations create culture. It does, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, it's going to be interesting to
Yeah.
see how it plays. And again, I'm sure I know that I've asked this before and you answered, but like I think you mentioned like for the United States to follow in the footsteps of Canada of losing their measles elimination status, like it has to be like it seems like you're on track to do that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's 1 year with active cases going on, so we're definitely gonna have it like it's 100%.
Well,
Yeah,
mission accomplished.
I know. It's gonna hit really bad. I mean, Prime, do you think that like coming into the midterms now? I mean, is this gonna be like a political thing that people? I mean, we're gonna lose it in the run up in the primaries. Coming up to the midterms. I mean, this is their accomplishment, right? Can the Democrats really bring this up?
Specifically within the measles outbreak.
Yeah, like that. I think that's going to be. I mean, it should hit big, but with our news cycles going so quickly, I don't know.
I mean, it's just one disaster after another, right? Remember we were just talking about the endless Epstein files and how
Yeah.
there was a massive cover up there. That's still happening, by the
Yep.
way, right? But now a war, an awful, disastrous war is happening. So it's just one after another. So in terms of the national news, I mean, it depends. It could be a thing that's talked about at the end, but this seems more like a local story, right? Like I don't think that people. I can't be sure. I guess I can't be sure. So I'm not going to make a definitive statement, but I would say that people in the national stage, right? Most people aren't thinking about the measles outbreak, but if it's happening in your area, I think you really care about the measles outbreak, especially
Yeah.
if you have children.
Exactly.
So I think this might be hyper local, depending on like the areas. Like I can see people even the measles, if a measles outbreak is not actively happening, but it did happen before the midterms, that having an effect. But like I just feel like I can't. It seems like more of a negligible thing for others in different parts of the region who didn't suffer an outbreak, who only heard it in the news. But then even sometimes, like I mean, all right, yeah, it's fine,
If it's not in their
I
backyard, it doesn't really they don't really
yeah,
care.
but it's I guess I don't want to make it sound like they're being uncaring. It's just that like you know on the list of reasons to not like this uh this regime, right? This administration. That seems like a lower one, right? And it's again, it's not like they don't care, but like there are other reasons that RFK can give them
Mhm.
to not like them. Measles specifically just may not be like rank on the top 10.
I agree, and the thing is, like, vaccinations isn't a national legislative priority, right? We have no national mandate for vaccinations, right? It's all local, like you were saying. It's state level, right? So it would require the Democratic Party to kind of step up and be like, we should have a national mandate for vaccinations, or we should make healthcare another issue. I mean, if that was an issue, if the Democrats wanted to talk more about healthcare, um, man, then I think it could start coming up being like, we need to do this. We're having outbreaks everywhere. We need more, of a healthcare system in this country, public options, single payer, that kind of stuff. But I don't know if anyone's really willing to like pick up that mantle in the Democratic Party right now, which is sad, which is really sad. We need it more than ever, right? I mean, that it just goes to show you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, I think like yeah, it'd be interesting if vaccinations and that I think in general, like more having that like patriotic kind of like messaging around public health, around caring for the poor, the working class. Like it's just I think that there's so much the opportunity there in framing it. I would just love to see that. I think Tallarico kind of flirts with that kind of like I heard someone say it was really interestingly defanged populism, where it's like a nicer like Christian, based populist rhetoric and stuff. So I thought that that was like an interesting way of putting it. But I could see someone like Talarico kind of like bringing up like healthcare and stuff. But yeah, we'll have to see.
It does seem to me like there. I don't know if this is like the main driver or one of the drivers of like what's occurring, and this increased vaccine hesitancy or skepticism or just
Mhm.
straight up anti-vax. But like, yeah, the shift in mentality of like framed as like at one point, I'm sure if you go back like in history, like there were public health campaigns like getting vaccinated, and people were proud to get vaccinated, not only to
Mhm.
protect themselves but to protect other people around them, right?
Exactly.
Like not just vaccinated for myself, but for the good of the community or from my friends and family and the people I come in contact with on a day-to-day basis. But then now the rhetoric is all around it's about personal choice. And again, going back to the article that I read, and I'll post in our Discord chat. But like it seems like they bring up this case of like one parent who was anti-vax and was framed of like under the argument as usual is like the parent has the right to decide for their children. But then I'll read like the last paragraph because it ends pretty nicely. So sometimes real life experience persuades parents. On a
Mhm.
recent Friday, a blue and yellow van offered free vaccinations in the parking lot of the Zion Hill Baptist Church in Inman, a semi rural neighborhood of small wood frame houses. And this is again from South Carolina. Over 4 hours, one parent showed up. Tracy Hobbs brought her 5-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, to be vaccinated. Mrs. Hobbs had fully vaccinated her oldest child, now 7, as a baby. But after the child was diagnosed with autism at age 2, she blamed vaccination and herself for allowing it. She decided not to vaccinate her twins, but when they too were found to be autistic, she said she did more research and did some reading, and now she was vaccinating her children. She said not just for them, but for everybody else's kid around you. That was her quotes.
Yeah, dude, like I mean, where's the informed consent that like your kid could have measles and that my kid is gonna go over and play with your kid or go into a classroom that's like everyone should be, informed like that this could be happening. Like imagine in South Carolina right now. Like, like, oh, there's just a 3% chance that your kid is gonna come home with like the most infectious communicable disease that we know of in scientific history. Like, oh great, like where's my freedom and liberty to like, it's just it's so wild, man. It's so wild. But there's so many cases now, they're like proudly kind of like sacrificing their kids at the altar of this cult where it's
Well,
like
we had that story I think 2 weeks
exactly,
ago of that who was like
exactly, yeah,
doubling down, like pretty much
exactly,
under the argument of like this is God's plan for my
yeah,
child to have
exactly.
permanent brain damage and disability, right?
I can't imagine if you're I just can't even imagine if you're that kid and you wind up, living until adulthood and you hear that and you're like actually scarred in some way and you're like, what? Like this is all preventable? Like this is all like I don't know, man. It makes me so sick to my stomach as a parent. Like that's just like really I hate to play that card, but like it makes me so mad because like you try so hard to a lot of times as your parent, yeah, you're like trying to stop the kid from hurting themselves. Like they're doing crazy stuff that's like, you're like, what were you thinking? Like, why would you jump from the couch with your head first? Like, what are you thinking? Like, oh, it's a dolphin. You're like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know, weird stuff, and you're like, um, um, but the idea that like something's completely preventable and you just like decide for that kid that that's just what it is. That's what you're gonna do. I think it's sick, man. I honestly would love. I think that. I mean, obviously, this is a big issue for me, but I would love for like the Democratic Party to be more strong on this issue. This is like really killing me that there isn't like champions for vaccinations out there. There isn't like champions for public health. Like, and I think that the problem is that the Democratic Party doesn't want to wade into like COVID and kind of like bring back that whole mindset, because then the Republicans gives them the whole like, oh my God, they're bringing back the vaccine passports and that kind of stuff, you know. Um, so that's what it feels like to me.
But even then, like, I think that even can be used, or like, let's say, weaponized by the Democrats, because like there was that argument during the height of the pandemic and lockdown. So like, oh, this is the excuse that the powers that be wants to implement vaccine passports, and the rhetoric that I came across. So like, well, there's no going back from this. This is what they want, and they'll never give up lockdowns, and we'll be in lockdown forever, and we'll also have vaccine passports. I think it's pretty clear that that was not the case, even with Joe Biden coming into office. And then yeah, even like with the measles outbreak, like you can, as a talking point again, Trump likes to use the rhetoric of alluding to third world countries. Like, I don't know, I think having a measles outbreak or having your status revoked of measles elimination turns you into a third world country. Like, I don't know why you would not just like hammer that point home. Like,
Yeah,
we're like on the path to a third world country.
It shows. I mean, it shows that you do not have access to the most basic preventable disease technologies that exist in the world. Like, if you don't have access to the most basic technology, then you're not a developed country, right? I mean, by definition, you don't have a developed public health sector if you're not able to actually provide the most basic of needs. I don't know.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
It's like, it's wild to me.
Like it's like I'm obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, but I'm pretty incensed and passionate about, and I don't even have children, so I can only imagine how much more amplified or how much more upset I'd be with children. I'd just be probably in a fit of rage. So it's probably best that I don't have children at this point.
It's very weird. I've honestly, it's one of those things where you like don't even want, you just assume the best, and you're just like, like, we're at a public school, so you're assuming that they are vaccinated. And like for like my kids, like they've had to be home for like a week now because of being sick and stuff. So we're like, hey, we're doing the right thing, keeping them home if they're sick, right? Let's try to minimize the spread. There's actually promoting like public health policy that way too, but I don't know what we can do.
Hope for the best, and I mean, I wonder what it would take, or like, is it even possible that like, well, I think it was mentioned that that there has been, let's say, paperwork submitted to impeach RFK Jr. I'm sure nothing's going to come up from that, but like,
has to be jail time, dude. Like,
I'm not opposed to that, but yeah, I'm curious like what it takes. Like we saw Kristi Noem being removed. Like, what would it take to get RFK Jr. Like just kicked out or replaced?
That's a really good question, Prime. What do you think, man? What would it take in order? It would have to be. I doubt anyone gets impeached here, but I'm curious. So like, what you think, like politically, the pressure that would have to be. It would have to be like from Trump, right?
I mean, there's no impeachment process. I mean, like there is an impeachment process, but no one's doing that here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but in terms of getting rid of, I mean, like Kristi Noem, praise be, getting fired.
No, she was promoted to that new position, that new prestigious position.
Shield of the Americas or something, right? Probably, like, I'm curious what that is. I wonder if it's another School of the Americas, in case you know what that is. And pretty horrible, in case you don't know what that is. But Christie, sorry, not excuse me, RFK Jr., right? Like the only way out for him, other than him stepping down, I think, is actually the Christie path, and that like Christie embarrassed Trump. Like that's all he cares about. Like he doesn't care about the damage you do to the people, to the country. Like, well, that's whatever, right? Especially he doesn't care about things you do necessarily to enrich yourself. That's what he's doing, right? I think he assumes that everyone else is doing the exact same thing, and I mean there's a lot. That's not a bad assumption, but still, like I think it's like built into his calculus as to how these people operate. He just doesn't want to be embarrassed, and RFK is just an embarrassing individual in the end, right? Like, I think that eventually, especially if we have some sort of outbreak that is more acute than like measles, right? I think acute is the word I'm going to look. I'm
Hmm.
going to use here. Great, thank you, Corey. Appreciate it. But yeah, if we're having something that has a level of lethality, not I'm not talking about like COVID pandemic, but some sort of disaster, where like it's you can clearly link it to a CDC failure. Again, it won't be deaths that do it. It'll be some sort of disaster or some failure that like people are talking about, like the news media is talking about, but specifically within conservative circles, where they're talking about. It'd be even not better, but like more to the point, more effective if it somehow inhibits business. Because I think that with Christine, Donald Trump started getting calls from people he didn't want to get calls from, like billionaires, movers and shakers, who like were having trouble like recruiting workers, right, foreign talent, having trouble, and not just like like blue collar, in the field type workers, but like white collars too. Like this whole thing has been embarrassing. Now, Christine was only doing exactly what Trump told her to do, except for that ad campaign. She was only doing everything that he told her to do. But as soon as you embarrass him, he'll pretend like he never knew you, right? Like, um,
True.
and he has done this before, like especially in Trump one, right? In the first Trump administration, where he tosses people away. No, he has no loyalty to any of these individuals. So RFK can be thrown away easily, right? It just has to get under Trump's skin one way or the other. But like realistically, I don't know, because the things that I named are things that like are some sort of outside series of events that occurs that RFK reacts to poorly. Rather than RFK actually doing something, like because I don't know within the HHS, is there something that he can do actively that will
That would get
end
back
up
or like
a
affect Trump in
disaster?
any way. You'd like even like an extra
Yeah,
phone call or whatnot. It's just like
yeah, it's hard for me to see, like,
I
again,
agree.
HHS, like there was a lot of chance, Department of sorry, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. There's a lot of kinetic activity there where like decisions to be made that Christine was making that put her in this situation. For RFK, I don't know what he can proactively do to show his idiocy, that would necessarily embarrass Trump enough for him to get to go away. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
Right.
But yeah, I would agree. I agree with your assessment of like it has to be something where like yeah, it has some sort of knock on effect of like get back to Trump or like just like yeah, like just Trump happens to get another extra phone call and like that's gonna be like the breaking point.
I think that's right. I mean, the only reason why they're together anyway is because of that kind of like pre-election deal that they made to become HHS secretary. So as soon as he's not useful in that way, he's out. He's just gone.
Or the worm just finishes off the job and eats the rest of his brain. Could always.
Or it evolves. You know, it's directed evolution. I mean, yeah, Prime. I think you're right. Like there is no like the public face of HHS and stuff isn't really. It's like more nefarious. Like public health isn't something that we see, right? It's not
Mm.
something that we can kind of like see with our eyes, like ice raids or like PR wise. It's not, it's children going to the hospital with brain inflammations. It's kids being losing their lives because of pneumonia and stuff like that. Where it's not, it's physicians, that have to say like, hey, like this is preventable, this is not okay. I think it's like taking like the nurses union and stuff like that. Like I'm actually losing my mind over because my wife like works at a hospital, and I'm like, what happens if like a measles kid like comes in there, and I'm like, that's I'm not okay with you taking that risk of you being in there, like, with that, so it's
Mm,
like, how is like, it's not a work safe safety issue, for these unions, like,
mm,
standing up and being like, "This is not acceptable."
yeah. Um, yeah, I'm like again. I'm thinking of. I'm stuck on this. Like, what could he do proactively to get himself tossed out? And like because like for instance, like the glyphosate thing, like RFK didn't do that, right? Like Trump like made
An
was an
executive order.
executive order, yeah, to allow for more easy production of glyphosates. Um, RFK doesn't actively do that. What has RFK actively done in terms of like I mean, it's like he created he redid the food pyramid, but like whatever. He uh like what what Maha thinks has he betrayed? Like promises his betrayed. I'm sure he's done a few, but I don't know the whole list off the top of my head.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind in terms of like the Maha agenda. Like, I think he's been satisfactory to them of like promoting French fries fried in beef tallow. Okay, raw milk or unpasteurized milk. Okay, check. Eating more meat. Okay, um, and like that's pretty much what comes to mind. Or and like yeah, I think something to do with a food dye. Something was done there. Okay, um, so like I would agree that from what I could tell, not that I'm closely tracking with RFK. As there's a part of me that wants to track everything that he does. There's also a part of me that doesn't want to track everything he does because it's just depressing. But all the things that I do track, it's like it makes sense under the framework of the Maha agenda, and I can see how the Maha would be satisfied with what he is doing, which I think is awful.
I mean, it's interesting because the bar is they're so often conspiracy land that, and they're so detached from the science that really they're going to celebrate any chip, closer, the deconstructive of the quote unquote deep state. But like, think about it, what they're saying, if vaccines are actually causing um, millions of people to lose their life, like RFK has not banned them. I mean, how weird is that? Like, you know what I mean? Um,
Sure.
or if food dyes is causing like 60% of the United States to be, obese. Like, why haven't we banned them? Like, entirely. Like, why are we allowing them? It's just, they'll redo the vaccine schedule from 17 to 10, total recommendations, and then that's like a win for them. But it's like, well, if they're poisonous, why would you allow any? And you see that, you actually see this in their comments, that it's like, it would rather be zero, but at least these kids are getting less poison, or stuff like that. And you're like, what? Like, that isn't, I mean, it's very weird, that the purists and stuff are very, um they're very mad still, obviously. But again, they're not connected with reality. So that's the problem. It's like, you know what I mean? They're not connected with actual sound science. So anything that's a win when they weren't winning at all is a huge stepping stone.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you. Something doesn't comport because, like, yeah, like the altered vaccination schedule or the reduced vaccination schedule, like that's a win in some sense. But like to the people, especially there's people in the Maha movement that view all vaccines as basically like a crime against humanity. Like, how is that like a win? Like, you, you they should be pushing for like there should be no vaccines like whatsoever. Like the as
I
you
don't know.
said, these are the
But
poison.
like our friend, we have a libertarian friend, Corey and I, who
Well, more than
is
one, fortunately or
yeah.
unfortunately, however you want to frame it. But
So
Yeah, but like, well, like they're what they're happy is like the degradation of like the federal government,
true.
and like which has been happening under Trump, and they realize like this is a monster that's not going from their perspective, a monster that can't be slayed like in one fell swoop, and so I imagine that's the same for many people in Maha, right? They understand that like weakening the vaccine regime and even like undermining it, right? Saying, "Oh, we don't need these, we don't need that," right? And like carving out exceptions or rules, in their favor. All of these things work to do. Like they want to dismantle our sense of like public health as we know it, or retool it for their own purposes, which is like supplements and shit. Um, like
Click
or
the
to
referral link.
yeah, click the referral link. Exactly. Yeah, click the referral link. Um, so and like I mean, this is just I mean, it's just such a know nothing movement. And so they're like, I think even maybe to an extent more than MAGA, the larger MAGA movement, they're just like easily pulled around. Like the conservative movement is more, I think, well defined, right? Again, like I mean, they fall for all kinds of BS, right? I'm not trying to give them more credit than they deserve, but like MAHA is a new thing, right? Or at least new to this era at the very least. And like it's new to being on the political stage in the way that it is, right? And so I think the borders are less defined. Um and so like it's rife for influence by others to shape it. It's basically what I'm going for, right? Like this, like because it's so amorphous, it allows for more people to attach to it and shape it for their own purposes. And the purposes, as our friend Dr. Greg said, is to get you to click the link, the referral link. Like it's a money making operation, a really good one, for them. And so um uh, yeah, like even the things they fight for, like raw milk. Okay, like how many people are selling raw milk? Like, or how many the people pushing like the need for to access raw milk are the ones who are about to sell it. Um, I think more passionately than the ones who are saying, yeah, we'd love to buy it. Like are people like dying on the hill for raw milk even within Maha? Right, like, or is it like more being pushed by influencers? Maybe I could be wrong about that. Maybe it is like just the average Maha enthusiast is just dying to get their hands on raw milk. But it feels like to me, and again I could be wrong, that this is more like the influencers from the top talking about, oh, this is like like you are missing out by not having access to the product, right? And you should get very angry on my behalf.
Yeah, it sounds like a small business owner that's like pushing and marketing their product rather than like this is the the ailments of society. It's more of like you need to buy my product and this is why, and it's like it just
Mhm.
seems so um it's not surprising that literally every single Maha influencer has referral links in their bio. It's all the same. I found one this week and it was a 50 50 different referral links, man. I'm like, what is going on?
50. No, did you count 50?
I
Five
counted
zero?
them. I counted them because I was like, there's no, it was just scrolling forever. 50, dude. I'm like, it's wild, man. It absolutely is wild. Yeah, I mean, do not, yeah, raw milk it's, it's dangerous. There can be things in there, guys, and raw milk is not any more nutritious. It's just heating it up in order to, kill harmful bacteria. It's one of the easiest and effective public health initiatives we've probably ever done in our life, like,
Yeah.
or in public health
Oh,
history.
oh, right up there with clean. Like this is like advocating for like drinking pond water. It's like, oh, it's like straight from the source. It's like there's a
Yeah,
reason why we.
yeah.
It's like
It's it,
we.
it's so odd. Well, they do that. They do that too. They say like that. I was in this anti-vax seminar thing, and they were talking about that. He was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm all about like raw water too. You just go up, you can just drink stream water." And I'm like, "What is going on, dude? Like, well, it's so wild, dude. Like, what?" It's like it really is like I did it one time or I saw a video of some person and they didn't immediately keel over and it's
Yeah, then immediately drop dead. And so it must be good.
It's all it takes. But I mean, yeah,
it's
like that is the mentality. It's like, cause like, yeah, could you, go up to a lake and drink the water, and in all likelihood, are you going to probably be okay that one time? But like on a population level, like we don't want that. There's a reason why we have plumbing and water sanitation and all that stuff. Like on a population level, like unfiltered, unsanitized water has huge population level effects that are just like massive.
Yeah, dude, it's just I, it's very odd. All right, well, so the Lancet, which is, um, I mean, there's there's basically journal ranks on how prestigious, how many times it's linked, how many different citations things get, and the Lancet's one of the
Yeah, the
premier
most prestigious, like, it's up
journal in the
there.
world. Yeah,
Top
I mean,
five, top three.
yeah, like not just in like what I'm saying is like not just in science, like not just in medical journals, but just in scientific literature whatsoever. And they never, they genuinely, guys, they really try to not be political in their stuff. I mean, probably this is a bad thing, right? But they genuinely do not try to get like scathing. I do remember reading their posthumous retrospective on the disastrous first year of the pandemic and Trump's administration's failure and subsequent 300,000 people that lost his life specifically because of his awful policies. But it basically goes through here in a 5 paragraph essay, going in and just listing out basically all the ways that RFK has basically destroyed or tried to destroy the institution of like of science and public health, obviously. So you have a lot of these agencies, the CDC, obviously under the HHS. You have the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, withholding reports that link alcohol consumption to cancer. You have them promoting harmful products like the raw milk stuff that we were just talking about, rescinding guidelines on vaccination policy, and all of this stuff, guys, with zero studies to cite. Right? They did not come and fund like a huge study. They honestly could have. But right, that's what blows my mind. They could have had some hack that just came in and just doctored something together and tried to make it look like it was like some scientific study, but they didn't. He literally just no notes, just like coming out and just saying this is the new policy of it, and rescinding dozens of well studied CDC studied issues, vaccine policy studies that they've funded, that you have funded, that you spent your money on, the NIH like not doing the program studying the effects of air pollution, the ways they fired whistleblowers, like just I mean it's pretty insane. And it's like just this ability for them to not even want to make the case scientifically, like they are overtly making this so political, bringing politics into science. And it's just it's truly unfathomable. It's truly unique that the Lancet would say and do this editorial, but really it really is like, it ends with like, hey, these are the ways that we can have a problem in the future. Like we're having measles spread throughout the country right now. We're not actually, we have a looming, an H5N5 strain of avian flu that was the first infection in Washington state that happened November 25. We're losing our elimination status in USA and Mexico. So it's like, they're looking retrospectively or also prospectively, and it's like, these are the institutions that we need, and we might not have them.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It seems to be pretty unprecedented of the lines to do it. Not, to be clear, I'm not opposed to everything that editorial. If anything, I think journals and the scientific community should be more vocal in this type of, let's say, well, in their stances, and to push back against like a regime that is explicitly, anti-science, especially against some certain fundamentals of like pasteurized milk, okay, and vaccination. If the scientific community can't rally around these things, then it's like, well, what can they rally around, and then like, what are they good for at that point?
I mean, I think people will certainly rally around their own jobs, though, right? Like, um, they understand that their yeah, funding is being cut, right? Like that tends to focus the mind
Sure,
when you
but
realize you're yeah.
I was gonna say the funding's being cut like regardless. So, like they're coming for you, and so it's like I would hope that at least some level of integrity, and like while you're being defunded, you at least want to go out with like making your positions clear or doing some sort of good. But I take your point. You are correct that funding has something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know, mm, it's difficult to you know rely on people's integrity. Not that I don't think these people don't have integrity. It's just that it's your integrity versus like not paying attention in the first place, right? Versus like not actually engaging here. Versus saying, well, I understand that like some nonsense is happening over here, but it's really none of my business, right? I just go to the lab, I do my thing, I go home to my wife or whatever, right? And I just I trot along. I'll focus on the science. You focus on whatever that is. Um, Having your funding cut focuses the mind. So that like is a more effective way of creating a constituency, right? Is threatening population's ability to make money, and then they'll like organize around that. And like it's, I mean, we've been we I've been seeing people warn the scientific community for quite a while that this was coming. And I think a lot of them just didn't understand. A lot of them are just like, regular people. I mean, they're just people, regular people. And most regular people don't actually engage in politics, right? It's a distant thing for them, like that you get occasionally through like the local news and like, through osmosis by contact with other people, right? So like they're just like regular people, and they engage in politics in the way that regular people do. And regular people also don't generally like those people don't engage unless they have a direct reason to do so. And all of a sudden it's about them or someone they care about, right? And so in terms of hoping scientists will get involved. Well, I don't have to hope anymore. They're gonna get involved because like because by now, right? Like the effects are already here, right? And so they've got to deal with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
go ahead, Greg.
Oh, real quick, the what is the reliable source to get health info from while we deal with Trump's term? CDC and FDA are not currently reliable. I would say the best ones would be like the American Medical Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics. Those would be like two that are really good in order to get info from. Go for it, Corey.
So I take your point, and I largely agree with it. That let's say scientists are just like there's definitely some element of science, just normal people, and they engage in politics like your typical, let's say, quote unquote, normal people does. Um, and this is just purely anecdotal, so this is just my experience. But so take it with a massive grain of salt, and it may be worth nothing. But in my experience, especially with faculty members in academia, okay, they're pretty politically engaged. And they, at least in the meetings that I've attended, they like to talk politics and all that stuff, and political conversations. At least in my experience, like happen. Now, whether they actually, that's why I say I think there's also an element of cowardice as well. Like scientists can definitely be very, again, in my experience, this is all anecdotal. Like there's lots of talk around politics and policy, but like yeah, but when the rubber meets the road, I think some of them are just like too cowardly to do anything. Because like I can, again, in my experience, these conversations are happening, but then they won't actually like take the further steps. Like, oh, actually, this is now my time to do something, and not I can't just have the conversations type of thing. But
Yeah,
maybe
there's
Greg has a different experience than me.
there's a difference between like people being more or less liberal or conservative in the institutions of academia and scientists as a profession seeing science communication as a way to do outreach. So all professors in their march forward to become a tenured professor, basically you're basically voted on to become a tenured professor by your peers. So you have to impress your professors and your fellow professors in order to get them to vote for you in. And in order to do that, they rank you on like kind of like a score. And like number one is your publications. So where are you getting those publications and published, and did they have a high impact? Two, are you able to bring grants in, and are you able to bring in money? And then three, they have like outreach programs. So are you doing like outreach programs at elementary schools? Are you judging science fairs? Are you doing that? So that is like a possibility. Like in academia, they could, shepherd in like science communication as a, way to uphold that third pillar. But traditionally, they don't see it that way. They just see it as YouTube, and it's this whole social media world is kind of like beneath that. I remember like
Well,
I
especially
was
the old, in my experience, especially the older professors, or like
exactly.
your typical, white older professor.
Yeah, I had a pretty younger one. He was younger, and I told him I was doing science communication on YouTube, and he thought I was like doing. He was like, "Why would you waste your time doing that? Like, what are you doing?" It was like I was like, "Fine, all right. Well, I'm never gonna tell you about it
You're not
again."
a real scientist, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just don't waste your time doing that. Just do real things. Do real science. So I'm like, okay. He was like pretty ardently discouraging me. So it was a really frustrating conversation. I mean, another sticking point really would be to require science communication for publications. I think that would be like an interesting kind of like rub. But um, I mean, for a lot of people, like when I tell them like I got laid off because of Trump directly, and I'm a scientist, like unfortunately, like Prime, like they laugh at me and they love it. So
Oh yeah.
it's pretty wild, man. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like literally having I mean, not to say that this is a bad thing. Obviously, I support immigration, like, but like I'm not even an immigrant. If I was an H-1B visa holder or something, then I could be like, okay, at least it fits into their political narrative that is false. But like imagine that. Like imagine cheering on like a fellow American losing their job through a layoff because they think that I've been I got whacked because of like some DEI stuff or something like that. It's like it's
Oh, they
crazy.
think like a black trans person replaced you?
But I
What
was
they think?
something like that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I was working on that bad science that Trump doesn't like, and
You're
that's
just
why.
doing pure DEI experiments,
Yeah.
selecting the right microbes, okay, that fit the quotas.
So yeah, and then I tell them it's like no, actually, it was I didn't. That's awful news, Miss Cake. And thank you for letting me know. Um, I it's Yeah, it's weird, man. You'd think that there could be some camaraderie, but I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird. Like even like cancer treatment, anti-cancer treatment, the mRNA technology that we developed in the United States and we paid for and we were pioneering. Like they can't even get around that. They can't even we've spent billions so far on it, and like rescinding that makes us just even further back. I don't know.
Cancer
It's just
research is a wild one. That one is a wild one. Like, I mean, like that was Biden's thing, right? The moonshot. Um,
yeah.
and I'm curious as to how that went. Like, I'm always okay. Okay, hold on. All right, let me add some nuance into this.
Mhm.
In that, like, I've always, hmm. Well, okay. All right. So I've been skeptical about cancer fundraising. That's what I want to say. Um because there are a lot of groups that are saying, fight for the cure, run for the cure, all these things you can do for the cure to get the public active and fundraising. And it goes to these NGOs, and then I it goes to do cancer something, right? I'm sure, and some of this money ends up in scientists. Like, I don't think it's like a complete like total scam, but I think it's like like fighting cancer, or like raising money to fight cancer, is big business in and of itself.
It is.
Um and like it can help with like medical washing, saying that like, oh, some company that has some tarnished image, like
It
we're
allows
gonna
them to put a
fight for the
sticker on
cure.
their webpage saying, "Oh, we fund the whatever American Cancer Society type of thing."
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. So like I've always a
Or
bit like
or like the
skeptical
Ronald
of
McDonald House of, "Oh, we fund the Ronald McDonald House. We're good."
I'm not familiar enough. It's interesting. I'm not familiar enough with like the moonshot and like exactly what the setup looked like there, right? Like, was the money going directly into hands of researchers? Like, were they just like pumping grants directly in there, or was it going into NGOs? And like they were going to do something with it, right? Like, was it going to like was it the cancer society, not the Cancer Society of America, was it the national, there's a big one, but
No, his team
but
like grants. They were making grants and then making big pools of money that people were basically like begging for scientists. So it was going to science
okay, if
professors.
it was going directly, okay, then that's good. Yeah. um so that was the only thing I wanted to interject there. So if it was like going directly to scientists, I imagine, the application process would be, pretty vigorous there. If that was the case, then yeah, it's a complete loss. Then it's a
Yeah, those are
terrible loss. Yeah.
those are like the NIH NSF grants that are extremely hard to get in there. Like you have to basically it's a panel of your peers that know and are experts in that area, and then they're evaluating about 10 different proposals each about what has the most feasibility, and then
Mhm.
everyone kind of like comes together and talks about who should get the grant. So it's actually like how meritocratic it is kind of like debated. But I mean,
Mm.
obviously you want to fund more grants than you can, but basically having more money in these programs basically says we have a big pool of money this year for this thing. We need $10 billion for this initiative that we want to do here and study this. And then basically all these professors and stuff all come together to apply for that money.
Mm. Okay.
And that happened
Um,
during the COVID. Like there was huge pools of money devoted to like, well, if you're studying COVID or anything to do with COVID, like I can say that definitely was, I think, up a year of like many people shifted their research to access the money for COVID. Like,
That's what
oh,
I did that specifically. We did that.
yeah,
We saw they were doing RNA vaccines, and I was like, I told my professor, I was like, oh, we could definitely make the COVID vaccine inside of chloroplasts of algae. I mean, sorry, we're plants. And we had done that before in other like parts. So like basically RNA, like delivering RNA, like coating on single walled carbon nanotubes and like delivering it to the chloroplasts of plants. So you just like spray it on, and then you could like express the vaccines and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we did that. That's actually why we got into the QAnon world, and that's how we became a part of the QAnon conspiracy, because Mike Flynn saw that and it got portrayed to him as people were going to, because we were working on spinach is like a really like a model organism for land plants. So it was just like an easy one that like the leaves are really easy to penetrate basically with foliar delivery, spray on delivery. And Mike Flynn thought we were trying to put vaccines in salad dressing. So he went on his podcast and started saying that they're trying
trying
to
to
put.
weaponize the spinach for that mind control. Put the mind control in the spinach.
Yep. And so then that got out. and that kind of died for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden I got pinged that Tennessee was banning vaccines in food. And I was like, what? So then there was like this whole floor debate about whether, like, basically the Republicans were like, you need to identify if there's a food product with a vaccine inside of it, and we're going to ban any vaccine food products. And the Democrats were like, what are you talking about? And they're like, this could happen. And they're like, can you name a single product that has a vaccine inside of it? What are you talking about? And they linked this. Sure enough, the Republicans started talking about our research and stuff, and talking about how he was going to outlaw this technology, anyone that makes it. So, and they did. They outlawed it. So technically, I'm an outlaw in Tennessee. And I got so.
First of all, you should use that to impress your wife. Like, baby, I'm an outlaw. You know, like I ride alone.
Leave out the Tennessee part. You're just an outlaw.
Yeah. Like, you know, get a tattoo. You know, like, let her know you're a tough guy. She'll be into that. But no, that's fascinating. This is a story I was not
world. Yeah.
Fantastic. But like, it's interesting, and I'm like, I'm gonna look something else up. But it's interesting again how these things, like when they escape academia, like how they like metastasize in like the general public, because the general public, like like how many layers, right? Like how many like nodes between this and like the public like finding out, right? Like meaning that like there's a game of telephone of people who have seen something about this, right? And they try to describe it to the best of their ability, right? Maybe the first person knows what they're talking about. The second person, maybe, right, but describe it less well, right? Third person has no clue. And they start saying it, or they're reading in an article, right? Article either by a good science communicator or a very bad one, right? Just someone trying to get, you know, 500 words published in a paycheck, right? Like, and it ends up in the public, and they don't understand like what it is. They certainly haven't read any paper, whatever you might have published, right? And then, like, it like for most of this, like they don't actually interact at all, like the great majority of the research. But when it's somehow politically salient, right, then it goes to the meat grinder of like the political sphere, right, and like understanding, well, how should I be partisan in relation to this, and then from there, if that begins to spread, right, it can spread into specifically talking about the conservative media sphere, that can spread there, and it can further devolve, and then all of a sudden policy on the other end, like policy,
well,
like what
we have
wasted time and wasted floor debate on that nonsense. It's like, what?
We have some, if I remember correctly, we have some historical examples of it, but this goes, I think, back in time, like back to the George W. Bush era of like, I believe in one of the State of the Union addresses, like he pushed, I think it was I think like word for word, he wanted, it was like he wanted to pass legislation that prohibits the creation of human-animal hybrids, okay? Because, and you know this, Dr. Greg, of like, you can create chimeric cells, and you can mix human and animal cells together. That's just fine. So like you can take some human cells and you can have them in mice. And that's like standard research practice these days. Yeah. But back then, in 2006, like, when people read of like these types of experiments, they think, oh, these are the human animal hybrids, okay? And like that was in Bush's mind, like he was alluding to that, and like he was pushing for like we have to pass like the human animal hybrids in the pipeline. We have to ban this type of research. When like no, all they're doing is like just, you know, we're mixing some cells around, but we're not creating human animal hybrids.
Hey, I saw Full Metal Alchemist. He did nothing wrong. Okay.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, but yeah, exactly. It's like the sensationalized like stuff, even with our like your own stuff, you see it in the news and you're like, wait, that's not, you'll say like one thing at the end where it's like where you think this could go in like 20 years, and then they're like, that's like the headline now, where you're like, this is what's actually happening, and you're like, well, not exactly. But I mean, the idea is like for these big pools of money, when you have like these initiatives like the $500 million for the mRNA vaccine, or the anti-cancer, pools of money, it's like it is allowing research to go in that direction that's not like specifically in that direction, but also kind of around it too. Things that enable, the cancer moonshot would be things that help the, like the folding mechanisms of how these anti-cancer drugs like bind to these, the cell, cell parts, so now that technology isn't just applicable to only cancer medicines. You can actually apply that to a lot of different other things. So, you're trying to like say in these moonshot programs, or these programs that they are cutting because they think it's wasteful. You're basically kind of like it. I would say it's like baseball. You're not like getting the target every time. It's not like riflery or something where you're hitting the bullseye every time. It's more like you're getting pitches at bat with baseball, where it's like you can definitely get some strikeouts. You could not hit the ball, but like more at bats, more swings at the ball gives you that chance to hit that home run, and that's what you want. You want those home runs that can really make a big difference. And maybe like it's just like in baseball, right? It's like a triangle, like where you're shooting in that direction, but you don't really know where the home run's gonna be, but it's a home run, and you're like that's a win, so that's what you really want.
Agreed.
Um. So, uh, I another example of this, not necessarily in the medical sphere, is the whole bans of Sharia law. That was a huge thing. I mean, like, I don't know how much of this you guys remember, but like,
No,
this was a
I
huge
remember
thing.
back in, well,
Yeah,
in the wake of 9/11 and the Islamophobia.
yeah, but like that continued. Like I don't know. I think really well past like the 9/11 era,
Oh
and
yeah,
but
definitely
like
had a
still,
long lifetime.
yeah, and like I mean that actually got like past the constitutional amendments, and or just like legislation added, right? Like there's a list: Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Dakota, and Tennessee. Um, like, uh, it's like these things aren't happening, right? Like there is like a religious like exemption for people to engage in like contracts like to like people who agree, right, who like for instance like a man and a husband and wife, right, they can agree to like submit to uh Catholic law, right, Catholic canon law. You can just do that, and you can have uh, you can have an arbitration based on that, or that can be taken into account within a court of law, like a secular court of law. And so, yeah, I guess that could also be for Sharia, but like beyond that, which is just like again like some sort of voluntary agreement between parties, like oh these are the rules of engagement between for this interaction, whatever it may be. Like it could be a marriage contract. But like beyond that, no, like Sharia law is not coming for you. They it was a conservative fever dream that any second the Muslims are going to take over. At any second, like their churches would be transformed into mosques, right? Like that Obama, I guess, was going to ship them in. Uh, the Muslims. And so, like, who knows what happened? Because if you weren't into a right wing media sphere, you don't know what the hell they're talking about, right? You don't know until like it breaks containment, and then the rest of us are dealing with it. Like, just trying to understand what are these people talking about? What in the world is happening here? Like, and you have to wait for articles from other people who have like, okay, like I went into like the conservative media sphere, right? And like, holy crap, you won't guess, you won't understand what I just found. And so they write a whole write up, right? Like the New York Times or something. Everyone else gawks at it, like, is this for real? And then no, it's for real. They're about to pass a law about this. So this is the usual pattern.
Dude, my favorite Obama era conspiracy on that level was like the Jade Helm stuff. They thought that Obama was invading Texas based off of like construction in Walmart parking lots, and they thought he was making an underground tunneling network so that they could federally invade and take over Texas. But in reality, like Walmart just had to like make a statement, and they were like, "Nah, we're just remodeling. We're just remodeling. We had to like put some storage in the parking lots." But yeah, man, I mean that's the power of these disinformation networks, you know. And the big problem though is what's the difference between kind of like that era and now is that like social media has siloed people off into their own worlds even more so that you can just only exist in this world where there is only conspiracy and misinformation, and they see, you know, all these people touting all these amazing things that RFK is doing, how he's saving us, how and anything that is any win, they're going to hear about it 1,000 times, even if it's not a win, right? Even if it's a perceived win. And they're never going to hear about the South Carolina outbreak. They're never going to hear about what happened with Canada. They're never going to hear about all these preventable illnesses that are happening. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Social media, the impact of social media is undeniable at this point, I think.
Yeah. I think that is the one thing that really links the anti-vax movement and where we've seen it the most. You know, the UK, Canada, and the United States. We're all consume like the same social media, man, and it's we're all English speaking, so the algorithm pushes us one and the same. It's very sad. It's very, very sad.
Well, on a lighter note, should we get into some peptides?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Go for it. You guys want to introduce it?
Sure. Well, I watched the video. It was a great video. Nice mix of science and a little bit of humor.
I thought it was really good. Go for it, Corey, if you want to
Well, it was Prime's video, so I
sure. But you know more about peptides than I do.
Sure. Well, don't sell yourself short.
I don't know much, nearly enough about peptides.
But yeah, pretty much the overall narrative is like, yes, peptides are a big thing these days. And like lots of people are, consuming them, largely injecting them, and like they're getting them from probably not reputable distributors or manufacturers, probably largely from China because you can get them for cheaper. But like, yeah, there's definitely numerous peptides, and pretty much people are turning themselves into.
Well, explain what that is for people so they understand.
Yes, that is totally fair. So, peptides, as nicely explained in the video, they're basically chains of amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Okay, so think of, let's say, for example, insulin. Okay, insulin for a type 1 diabetic, for example. There's a reason why if you're a type 1 diabetic and you need to take insulin, it has to be injected because it's a peptide / protein, and if you just eat the insulin, your body will just digest it. Okay, because it's just pretty much protein, like obviously not the exact same type of protein that you find in chicken, but it's still a protein, and your body has all of the machinery to digest the protein, just like insulin. So that's why insulin needs to be injected, and so that's why pretty much many, if not the vast majority of these peptides, they're still just strings of amino acids, and they largely need to be injected, and they can have a whole host of biological effects depending on what the nature of the peptide is. There might be some positive effects. There might be also certainly some negative effects. I think there's one of the reasons why many people seem to be on board with injecting peptides is because there's this aspect of they're natural, or since they're amino acids and they're peptides, and your body makes peptides and proteins all the time. Okay, and so people just think they're natural, so therefore it must be good. Okay, but absolutely, peptides, okay, depending on what it is, like it could actually have like negative effects. But yes, a lot of these are untested, and not only untested in terms of like no clinical trials assessing efficacy or safety, but also probably untested in terms of like, are there contaminants? Is there actually anything bioactive in there at all? And so pretty much, you are potentially rolling the dice if you are consuming these or injecting these. But many people seem to be willing to do that, all for the sake of maybe some marginal benefits of maybe increased muscle mass, maybe some improved recovery, maybe whatever, better skin complexion, or reduced joint pain. A whole host of marketed effects that are largely unproven at this point.
Yeah. So much of the point what this video was doing that I sent along, it was showing that like specifically influencers, social media influencers, were pushing this, right? Which is always a good sign. When social media influencers step in the ring and they're like your main source of contact, right? Not simply for a supplement. No, there's something you're gonna inject directly into your veins. Fantastic. Um, and so yeah, like there's a whole subculture that's forming around using this, if you've heard like the biohacking scene, this is part of that.
Yeah.
Like people were using like CRISPR on themselves to
Not,
like
Well,
not
that's
this.
funny just for a variety of other reasons, but like it is in the part of the biohacking community.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think
And
like go for
go
it,
ahead.
man.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll finish up quickly.
Yeah,
But yeah, for the biohacking scene, and now these individuals are pushing it. Like this is in this video that I sent. There's a great like it's not even I'm not sure if it's a montage. I think we might have just played this video straight. I'm not exactly sure, but like this one influencer was like listing off a whole list of peptides that it seems like he was taking, but maybe not. Maybe he was just like listing all the ones available. But uh like there is no way these individuals understand like what these effects are. And the most honest thing I think that came out of those individuals is that like yeah, their effects on like any individual you can't actually be sure. So it's like you're experimenting kind of on yourself, right? As to what will happen, what side effects that you will feel, and of course these side effects have to be visible to you, right? Like whatever side effects it is, hopefully it's not like a ticking time bomb inside of you that you can't feel, that like explodes down the line on you. But other than that, yeah, if you come outside of it either feeling fine or feeling better, that things are good. And people continue on with it. The one thing that's tricky here though is if you're feeling fine, meaning you could be feeling normal, and in the wake of feeling normal, where nothing bad is happening, that leaves your mind to wander to think a lot of good things are happening, right? Like now you're thinking, well, oh, I can feel it now. Like oh, my hair is more lustrous. Now like it's more shiny, right? You can see that, right? And then your friends say, yeah, it's 100% more shiny. I can see that. And then like this confirmation bias starts to spiral. So this is just a thing that's happening now. It's amazing. And I would suggest other people go get involved. Sorry, Dr. Greg.
yeah, yeah. I think biohacking is like a good kind of like general term. I mean, and the problem, so peptides have kind of they've spiked in popularity because of the use of GLP-1 agonists. So that's Ozempic, tirzepatide, retatrutide, all those type of stuff. So
Wegovy, or
uh,
sorry.
Yeah, that's exactly. So those are that's like the Kleenex, like the brand name,
Mm-hmm.
the other names are anyway. So um, the point is that so as people have kind of created like more have been I would say more flirty with these type of like ways that things can have like systemic changes. We've seen kind of like these other like research chemicals kind of like come into the fray, where you have things that have little to no human trials done whatsoever on them. Very like tenuous, no long-term studies, no FDA trials, that kind of thing that people have kind of like seen animal trials in and think that that's okay and do that. Um, which is interesting because that's what's happening with the bodybuilding community for the last like 70 years. They've been doing this. A lot of the chemicals people put into their bodies aren't they were hormones that don't have any long-term trials, or they're derivatives of testosterone, but because they were used in like animals or something like that, in order to create them larger, they were like, well, I'll try that. That makes
Mm-hmm.
the horse really big, so maybe it'll work for me. um so um I would say like a lot of this is kind of people kind of moving away from using like injectable anabolics, but in a more general term, and kind of like using more of like a short term peptides, which is like more specific, more like targeted in terms of specific actions, versus like something that's broader, which is going to affect like a whole umbrella, a cascade of hormones like testosterone. Um, so basically, you have like a lot of people using a lot of targeted peptides now for like GLP-1 agonists, or the skin melanin production, or skin collagen for things. So people are like using these like targeted things, for those, or repair, for an injury that they have. um but the problem is again, like they just, other than the peptide, which is again, the umbrella term is peptides, but they're like some of these have had way more, and are actually FDA approved and have actual human trials along with it. So that's like again, GLP-1 agonists, uh those the tirzepatide, retatrutide, that's like the ones that people are more familiar with. But then it's kind of like this whole research chemical group that's like very dangerous. So I would say, I mean, the biggest problem whenever you're injecting anything that's of unknown origin, you have no like liver in order to pass out any contaminants, right? So it could be basically people get there's these labs that synthesize this stuff, and then if there's like a contaminant or something that's inside that, people have lost their life if there was um, a contamination in it. It absolutely has happened in these gray market labs that are basically like selling them out the back. Again, like then this is actually something I'm pretty sure that um, they lessened the um, it was something I saw, some news release about BPC 157 and stuff like that, which is like one of the more popular ones for repair.
Recovery. Yeah.
Yeah, recovery. So again, like, in the jujitsu community and stuff like that, people are definitely hear about it all the time and stuff. And it's like, again, like if you are optimized, to 90-95%. But again, BBC 157 has zero long-term human trials in it. I wouldn't do it. It's like, doesn't make any sense. It's very likely you're just spending $100 a month on nothing. And it's not, you're not even going to be optimized enough in order to make any difference. Like but like, if your sleep is optimized, if you're not sleeping 8 hours a day, if you're not getting enough protein, if you're not getting enough fiber, if you're not staying hydrated, if you don't have like blood panels done and you're not actually getting your micronutrients set, like if you don't have all that kind of stuff optimized, then like a little tenuous research chemical that may or may not actually do anything isn't going to bring you from like the 50%. I sleep 3 or 4 hours a day, I don't eat well, I don't exercise. You're not going to go from 50% to 90%. You
Mm-hmm.
might go from 90% to 95%. So maybe you're an Olympic athlete and you have an injury and now you're recovering, trying to recover faster. And we've talked about this, like an NFL player, like
Mm.
it recovers suddenly 6 months their ACL tear, all of a sudden they're way better. And it's like they're absolutely doing some of this stuff, they with a physical therapists and along with pharmacological methods and all this kind of stuff. They're definitely doing some stuff like that. But these are professional athletes, guys. These are professional athletes that have trained medical professionals doing blood work constantly. So you know what I mean? It's like it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna get this off a website and then I'm gonna get there. That's the kind of and I feel like, especially when I'm watching that video, when the guy's just linking off all those things, I'm like, bro, that guy's spending probably $400 a month on this stuff. If that was the stuff that he was linking off, and you're like, why? Like, I mean, it's more about it's at that point it's more of just like a fun thing where you're just kind of like, oh, like you're a character, like
I
a
think they
lark.
want to feel like they're like ahead of the curve. Like, ooh, I'm a real
Yeah.
trendsetter. Like, or like I'm really, I'm the pioneer. I'm blazing the trail type of thing.
Yeah, it's like an RPG character, and you're getting new armor. Like, this is cool. Like, this is something that like can enhance me or something. But you're definitely not becoming like superhero.
Yeah,
But yeah,
unless I pretty much take your point and agree with it. Of like, unless you're like the professional athlete looking to eke out that extra 0.1 or 1%, okay, like you focusing on the fundamentals is probably going to give you just more bang for your buck of like getting better sleep, getting better nutrition, getting
sleep, sleep, sleep is like the number one thing. I mean, your testosterone levels rise, your HGH levels rise. So you have, which is like the best growth hormone that you can have, which is like the one that your body makes. So it's like that rises, your testosterone levels rise, your cortisol levels decrease, so you're less stressed. Like, it's a like sleep, like optimize sleep is like probably the number one tip that anyone can like actually get. And that's the first thing that all the athletes do too. That's all those guys are doing that stuff too. So don't, you know, it's just, again, it's just like another way that people are getting kind of like pulled into these weird, like easy fixes and stuff, and not like doing the hard work of like lifting, working out, sleeping well. It's the grind, but that's what makes a difference.
yeah, eat, sleep, train. And I find it interesting and sort of funny in a way of like, so they bring in the video, the well produced video, they bring in like a bodybuilder, and it's sort of like this frame of like, oh, bodybuilders, they're like the head of the curve, like they're the original experimenters, and like again, they're like blazing the trail, like they're the pioneers, but like, well, one, and I know that people are not doing these for like exclusively health reasons, but like bodybuilders like arguably like the least healthiest population. Okay, like if you compare, if I remember correctly, the data, if you compare mortality rates of bodybuilders to your typical average human, like your actual hardcore competitive bodybuilder dies earlier than your typical average like human. But bodybuilders like historically have done really stupid things. Like there's actually not to get into the weeds, but like okay, so this is like I don't know 60, 70 years ago, but okay, there was this molecule, okay, that bodybuilders used to cut fat, to lose weight during, let's say, a cutting phase, like preparing for a show. It is called 2,4-dinitrophenol. It's an organic molecule. And like what this does, in a nutshell, without getting to the weeds of the biochemistry that's happening, but like this totally ramps up your metabolism. But it ramps it up so high, okay, that like when these bodybuilders took this, they literally started like cooking themselves. Like your body temperature just skyrockets. Okay, because this molecule has to be dosed in a very specific way. Of like you like once you just go a little bit past that tipping point, like your metabolism is ramping up so high that you're just like basically like cooking yourself. I'm like there are many documented cases that happen, and this molecule ended up being banned, and like it's still you can buy for like research purposes, but like there are many notorious cases back in the day, in the early days of bodybuilding with this molecule. That was very interesting.
Um, it's just so people will know where to find this. So it's the YouTube channel Good Work, Good Work, right? Two words, Good Work. And the name of the video is Silicon Valley's New Miracle Drug. So Silicon Valley's New Miracle Drug. Yeah, it's I'm subscribed to that channel. It's a pretty good one actually. They're fun. But in any case, like I wanted to like kind of complicate this discussion a little bit because within this video there was a woman who was featured prominently. This individual, she said she had weight problems, and she went out to get Ozempic basically when things were first popping off with that. She went to her doctor, and she had been overweight, and she got approved for the drug, but when she went to the pharmacist, because she was slightly under, I think, a certain BMI.
Yeah, the BMI. It was like she was supposed to be like I think like
35.
30 something, like 35. What? And
Yeah.
she was like 34.7 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Because of that, I mean, she could still get it, but like her insurance is going to cover it. It said it's going to be $1,000 without insurance. So, she's like, okay, screw that. And then she like goes along. She discovers this whole peptide subculture. She gets her hands on it, and she gets on some peptide, and she uses it. And at least we didn't see a before picture, but at least what she looked like afterwards, she looked pretty good in terms of her shape. She looked like she a standard body size. And so obviously I don't know if she did anything else or like have a full understanding, but like just taking her word on it, whatever peptide she used, I think she said was like it would have cost her $1,000 without insurance, and then it cost her like $15 on the market there. She's like, yeah, you just get your hands on these things, and it apparently worked. So I want to discuss that, um, if these things can actually produce results, right? Um, you know, uh, should a person not take it, right? Like should that woman have not taken it if if it actually made her healthier, put her in a better body, and put her a better mindset, which I want to discuss later on. Um, like, would you have told her like, no, don't do it?
I also do want to point out that from what I remember, that woman, I think they were like from California or something, and so probably they're not part of the MAHA movement, and so it was interesting hearing their perspective, and they seem to be understand to be pro peptides. But to let's say, well, actually, I'll let Greg go first. I need to actually think for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, dude, I think that, I mean, this is the rub, right? Like where they are so effective. The GLP-1 agonists, I mean, they're probably the biggest quality of life improvement that anyone could get that's obese. And so, I mean, personally, I think that we should, because there's 60% of the United States that qualifies for this stuff. I honestly think that we should nationalize the production of it and just help get people to a healthy weight, because it's just the cost that we bear.
You want to add it to the spinach. That's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's necessary for, to decrease our healthcare costs, along with vaccines and stuff, I'm I would nationalize both of those. But anyway, we don't live in that world. That's the utopian world that we don't live in. It's tough, man. I mean, so the big dangers is, one, like I said before, you could have an infection and you don't know, and your liver's not processing it, and you could die of a meningococcal infection. You know, it's like it's happened before. That's the big problem. Two, the GLP-1 agonists are so similar, you don't really know what you're buying. So unless you do a gas chromatography mass spectrometry, such as GCMS, you don't really know what it is that you're getting. Like you could get something that's like an Ozempic that's touted that you're supposed to be getting retatrutide or whatever, but you don't have the GCMS data to know that there's a glucagon in there. So you're paying, you know, for one thing and you're getting the other. So that could screw up the dosaging, and that means that you could be like getting sick, you know, from that, side effects from that. So that's kind of like the potential like dangers and the potential like pharmacological problems with it.
So I actually, well, I'm in Canada, so obviously public healthcare. So I'm not, I don't have strong disagreements to nationalizing these things. And like at the end of the day, I think it should be covered by public insurance or a public healthcare system, like we do here in Canada. But yeah, I'm also a little bit conflicted, especially like, you know, not to be, I'm going to be mildly or maybe explicitly judgmental towards this woman, but it's just one case study. But it seems like, you know, their motivation was, it seemed to be like just like pure vanity. Because like they also said that they were taking copper peptides, and it was like for the purposes of like, you know, better skin and better hair. Which, you know,
Yeah, it's like
not
excess baggy skin. Yeah.
yeah, or something to that effect. Which, you know, I'm not against. And again, you know, I guess ultimately, more or less do whatever it is that you want to your own body. But like, you know, to be motivated by pure vanity, like I would have an issue if someone is sort of like abusing the healthcare system just for those purposes alone. Let's put it that way. But for the sake of healthcare and improved health outcomes, like absolutely things like Ozempic, Wegovy, and all the other actually approved GLP-1 agonists, I'm in favor of pretty much like, yeah, making them as accessible as possible.
But let's talk about that idea of, you know, vanity. Not just that, but also like the line between vanity and like improved health, right? Someone could say that, oh yeah, a lot of people want to go on Ozempic for vanity, right? Like, oh, they're not at their target weight, but you're fine, you know, otherwise. Some people, like, you know, there are those who are morbidly obese. Okay, fair, right? But there are many who are not morbidly obese, but they're also on Ozempic any which way. Um, and like this woman said, and so like should they not be, right? Is should they instead should just do the hard work that our friend Dr. Greg was saying previously? And on the other side of that, right? The reason I really want to bring up this woman in particular, it's because near the end of the video, she says a really interesting line. Like, because the interviewer is like, what if, are you afraid of additional side effects? And she said specifically earlier in the video, at the start, that she had suffered a bunch of side effects, a bunch of like awful side effects.
She like crapped her pants
That
in public like multiple times, and she
yeah,
explicitly says at the end of like, even if it like took off 5 years of my life, I would still do it all over again, like in a heartbeat. Basically, was the sentiment.
exactly. So, and that's the line I want to discuss. Um, like, uh, like that seems like a trade off, but definitely an adult trade off that a person could just like rationally make. Like if you're, and she seemed pretty young, right? If you're looking at 50 plus years of possibly never having the body that you want, or just being in a state that is psychologically deleterious, right? And like taking these drugs could, put you in a happy state, right? um and then the trade-off, like she's saying, is like, yeah, 5 years off my life, I'll take it because the rest of my life will be better, right? Now it could be through like other positive health outcomes, but it could just be because she's in a better mental state. So then shouldn't she take these things? Like, it's helping.
It,
I think it's
it's a
real.
valid question. Um, uh, so yeah, my thoughts towards things like this, like I have not fully fleshed out, and I'm not sure that I ever will. But like, let's say going with the overall sentiment, of, let's say, for example, just the person feeling better and some sort of improvement in their quote unquote psychological health, maybe increased confidence or whatever. They just feel better about their body. I'm not inherently opposed to that, but like, let's say, for example, I encountered a teenager or I had like a teenage daughter and, they were looking for cosmetic surgery for purely like, yeah, whatever. Get their nose done, get their breast done, or whatever operation that, like, I would be pretty conflicted about that. I'm like, I don't know that those are appropriate reasons or good enough reasons to justify that type of thing. Or rather, I think there are, I lean towards there's maybe alternative ways to boost your confidence, feel good about your body without going through the purely surgical route. But I'm not 100% committed to that position.
I think like it's tough. I mean, and I think that people could do it safely without, the problem is that if people don't do it with and aren't capable of being honest with it, then they're going to have stronger side effects and they are going to, crash their body weight, lose a bunch of muscle mass, be worse off for it. So it's like, when we make a black market, usually a lot of times the black market is actually more dangerous than the chemical itself. We saw that with plants for the longest time, right? um but um so I think like having an ability to get like informed medical care through something like this is going to be a lot better. If this is like, you know if this is something, such a demand that people are, um this is happening, then we should formalize it and through you know the actual, ways that people can actually get medical care and be the safest possible.
Yeah, I see that aspect. And to maybe expand a little bit, or yeah, expand on my example of like flipping around of like uh, encountering, let's say, a teenage boy, 16, whatever, 17, 18, but like, you know, uh, and to relate to the data of like, there's data that indicates that body dysmorphia among males or boys is increasing. Of like, pretty much there's now this obsession with size and getting as muscular and lean, not only muscular but as lean as possible, and in line with that, as vascular as possible. Like, would I, if I had a teenage boy or son that's like, oh, they're feeling insecure about their lack of like muscle development and they want to start taking peptides and testosterone and HGH, I'd be like, I would have some, yeah, I would not be super in favor of that. I would not be inherently opposed, but I would hope that there's other ways to address their insecurities rather than just going only down that road. Um, yeah. But I take the point of
Uh,
like, would I want them to go to the black market? No. But if the option is like they're either doing this or they're going to the black market, then yes, I would want them to do it with a medical professional and then have access to pharmaceutical grade stuff that is safe.
yeah. So I guess yeah, what I'm getting towards is I mean I like what our friend Dr. Gray talked about the black market. That part's important. And that like the black market just operating there tends to be more dangerous than the product itself. I think that's a really really good point. So like I'm a person who's like I'm a social libertarian, and that by that I mean like I think a person should be allowed to do whatever they want with their bodies. Um, and but what I would want is that people be safe. Um, and that tends to conflict when you give people total freedom, because we aren't going to be safe. They're not going to be safe. Um, but I also don't. Well, I want them to be safe if they want to be safe. Because they might also want to end their lives, which I would also give them the freedom to do. So like I'm saying, I want them to have bodily autonomy in that way. Um, but so I guess the problem here for me is like um uh, misaligned goals and like bad information. So misaligned goals that would be what our friend Corey was basically saying in that. Um, hey, I have something up my body and I'm unhappy with it, right? Rather than doing the harder work, right? Or rather than finding some other ways, because there's maybe multiple ways to address this underlying issue, right? Some of it might just be therapy, um, but like rather than finding some other way of doing it, right? Like you're saying, like, okay, well, this bottle of chemicals that'll solve it, right? Um, and that might and that can send you down a pathway of thinking, well, this is the way to solve my general problems, and I'm gonna like be focusing on experimenting myself, and you could have bad health outcomes there. But then on the other side, there are these influencers who are telling you, yes, this is the how to solve your problem. Also, click the link in the bio, right? I have a referral link here, and so you have these individuals who are preying on your psychological insecurities,
Hmm.
and profiting off of them, right? Like this is the way, right? These are a miracle drug, right? Like it's just like the future is now, and all you got to do is like talk to some shady Chinese supplier, and they'll send a few bottles of this over to you. I don't. Uh, while again, I think a person should have the freedom to do so. Like, I want you to pursue these goals cautiously if you want to live, right? If you're not suicidal, all right. Well, then I want you to do this cautiously, and I want you to like get the results that you're looking for, if those results are even possible, right? If that's even in the realm of the possibility, which they may not be, because once, as always with these like miracle drugs, they'll say they literally do anything, right? And the way the snake oil salesman does. So I want you to get what you're looking for, but also not being like encouraged to go down a possibly dangerous path. Again, even if like, and I think Dr. Greg, yeah, he mentioned it previously. Like, even if you were sure you were getting medical grade, pharmaceutical grade supply of the peptides, right? Like, that doesn't mean that you can know exactly how to use them correctly. You may not be getting like the blood work, like he was talking about, like a professional athlete, getting constantly having a team behind them, working on to ensure optimal outcomes, right? You probably don't have any of that. So even then, like, there's just so many room for error, room for disaster, that I guess all I can say now, because again, I want to give people the freedom to do these things, is God, be careful. It's like, be careful and don't take motherfucking advice from an influencer. Holy crap! Holy crap!
But I'm curious, Prime, like of the examples that I brought up of like if you have a son or daughter and like they have these insecurities,
Uh huh.
um, like would you like encourage them like, oh, if the answer's in a bottle, it's like, is that your go-to answer, or like would you be like, let's be cautious, or maybe something else, or yeah, do you have any thoughts whatsoever, or still even understandably fleshing them out?
If they're below 18, first of all, like I'll impose my will on them, and
And you'll
I
inject the
will,
peptides yourself. No, I'm just
yeah, exactly,
kidding.
hold them down, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'll say no. This is not the path you're gonna go, and let's see if we can find other ways to like raise your self esteem. That would be my go-to thing after they're 18, right? After they're an adult, that would still be my path, but like I can't, impose upon them anymore. And so like I'd work with them, like you're my child. I'm gonna have all the patience in the world with you. So let's work on this. Let's find a better way. Um, Now, again, the interesting thing, like Ozempic complicates this whole discussion, right? Because there are people who, otherwise like just have extreme difficulty getting rid of weight, right? And if my child was one of these people, well, then the answer actually might be in a bottle. Um, like, who am I to say otherwise, right? Um, but I just don't like this mindset, this medicalized mindset. And as actually, it gives me another point that I want to some pushback against my our friend Dr. Greg here, um, and that like I agree with you on the idea of nationalizing drug medication, but I kind of want to do that in general for lots of things, right? I want people to have access to drugs, and I want to like help demolish the profit incentive here, and like there'd be so many advantages there. However, um, like that wouldn't be the answer for me, right? Because you presented that as the answer for like you said 60% of adults could be eligible for using Ozempic in the United States, right? That's not the answer. The answer there is our food system, right? Our food industry. And the incentives we've put in place and that people's access to healthy foods, right? I know you agree with all this, honestly. But it's just like that would be my pushback there. Is that like I would reframe the conversation as to like, well, why is it 60% of US adults are overweight, you know?
I think you're right, but like we have to fix the problem now. Like hopefully in the future, I mean, this is why, like genuinely, the prescription with GLP-1s is healthy for anyone that isn't on GLP-1s, basically. So it's like weightlifting, eating protein, which is going to satiate you more, so you're not going to overeat on empty carbs and that kind of stuff. Like snack on processed foods that's specifically designed in order to allow you to overeat. So if you like just focused on that stuff, as a culture and inside of our country, and then helped the other people kind of like catch up to everyone else, then you're left with a culture that everyone is working out. Everyone weight lifts, everyone's doing the bro bodybuilder stuff, but like that's how you progressive overload. That's how you like really build muscle, and that's like good. That's good for bone density as you age. That's good for muscle mass as you age, so you're less likely to fall down and you're less likely to break a hip, like decreasing medical costs, like that kind of thing. I feel like it's good for someone actually is in chat who's does weight loss counseling for patients on GLP-1s, and said, interestingly enough, it is thanks to pharmaceutical industries and these GLP-1s that registered dietitians like myself finally have more opportunities to see patients and their insurance covers it. That's an interesting.
Mm.
So I can see, yeah, I mean, people hear about it, and they want to come in. Again, like the danger is people going in this willy nilly, trying to lose as much weight as possible, not working out, losing all their muscle mass, and then they're decreased in weight, but then their metabolism is tanked and they're super hungry, and now they don't have their muscle weight to kind of like sustain themselves, and then they balloon up back up. So because
Um,
these patients realize they rarely get healthy and lasting results without the nutrition and overall health changes. Oh, okay, interesting.
so I had a friend I haven't talked to in quite a long time, unfortunately. But we had a good relationship. It's fine. Whatever. The point is, I had a friend who was also a dietitian, and I'm curious what her thoughts would be on this too. So it's interesting what you're saying is that like, yeah, you can get um, um, like access to insurance maybe and then access to patients, right? Like once like insurance is be able to cover, like if it's covering an appointment, right, about this drug, well then you can talk to them about that and anything else, right? And maybe you can help create like a meal plan for them. And if there were like gaps in coverage, maybe dietitians, I could easily see that dietitians aren't like on the top of insurers list of like things to cover, because again, like we are focused on like medicalizing the problem rather than like, hey, let's go back to basics. Like, go like, what can we do in terms of like fixing the food that you're intaking to like attack the source of the issue. So I really wouldn't be surprised. This is very believable. I haven't heard this before, but it's very believable what this commenter is saying, and that all of a sudden now the money is flowing in because now there's a drug that can be sold, right? And now insurance are covering this when there was like little profit for some other mega corporation behind it. which is interesting. Also, side note, right? In case you don't know, right? With dietitian, like you want them to murder you, right? Have you ever if you want to get under their skin, like call them a nutritionist. Like
True, yes, because
they do not
that
like it.
is a registered dietitian is typically a regulated term, at least if I remember in
It's
Canada, the United
it's like
States. But
They
nutritionist
will.
is not a regulated
They
term.
have a big freaking problem with it. So
I
yeah,
mean,
don't do it.
the thing is though, like, but that's really interesting is like, and you see it all everywhere. I mean, really, um, because when you're food restricted, you know, the big problem is kind of like eating enough protein. So that's why everything has protein in it now. There's a huge, you know, with the rise of this stuff, now everything has protein in it. Like Honey Nut Cheerios with added protein. I'm like, whoa, what in the world? Like you go and you just like see things everywhere with added protein.
What I find the
It's
most funny is like now I go to the store, okay, and like there's the yogurt and there's like the high protein yogurt.
yeah.
I look at the nutrition label. It's like here's 2 extra grams of protein in my high
Really?
protein.
Dude, I'm seeing like there was a plus protein Starbucks drink that's like 30 grams of protein, bro. I was like, let's go. Like that's amazing. I mean, dude, you can only really eat like you can only assimilate to 30 to 40 grams of protein at a time. So that's like, you know, that's legit. You know, that's a good bolus there. But I always wanted to work with this is the dietitian again, but I always wanted to work with people teaching people how to lose weight and prevent chronic diseases. And after a decade, the job opportunities finally came because of these GLP-1s. Interesting. That's really interesting. That's yeah, it's
Hey, dietitian person. So then, if you could answer this question, please. Um, do you care? Like, do you care which path they take? Is it more the outcome for you, right? Like, okay, that this person has now dropped weight, and now they are in a healthier state, right? Do you care that it's through medication or through a change in diet, change in lifestyle?
hmm.
Like, like, is it does the path matter? Assuming like the let's just assume that the Ozempic doesn't have like some like awful side effect for them, right? Like, does it matter for you if they make that change themselves or they inject it?
That's a
This
good
is
question.
I mean, this is me, but I hate the Ozempic shaming myself, man. I don't
Mm.
understand that as a culture, how we have somehow like minimized like the people that have, you know, lost weight and are now healthy because of um you know, Ozempic and the pharmacological like means in order to get there. I do think we have like a reality and kind of like what you're talking about where it's like there's definitely a access problem, an accessibility problem, just kind of like how we talk with anti-cancer medications. You know, in the future, like there's definitely a world where people could, you know, be more likely to be overweight if they're poor, if they're more likely to have disease that they can't have gene therapy medicines because they're poor, they don't have access to this stuff. So it's like, you know, we have new technologies, we just need to make sure it's accessible and widely and universally capable, because it's not fair that someone that's poor should also be obese, should also have to carry more disease, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But and like I also agree with like anybody generally speaking shaming people for taking these therapeutics or these GLP-1 agonists largely not good. But I think there is a categorical difference between like a bodybuilder who's using it to like cut for a show versus like someone who's is obese and is looking to improve their health and well-being. Um, Now, am I in favor of shaming either situations? No, but I do perceive something different there.
Did that dietitian respond?
Not yet, not yet.
Hopefully.
um yeah, I
Mm.
guess Dorito, do you think that are you, but what your thoughts if they're coming in like just because they're on the grind and they want to do better versus pharmacological, like is there like any difference to you? That's the question if you missed it. um yeah, they also have He says, if they tolerate it, then in some cases it is very necessary for people because of the way it controls cravings and what my patients call food noise. Usually they have tried everything else.
Mm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely like it helps, basically processed food allows people that are genetically predisposed to thoughtless eating to be overweight.
Mm.
So it's like in a world that had less accessible eat like food, they would actually probably be a more healthy weight. But as processed foods is more readily available and less satiating when they eat it, it's thoughtless or um like stress eating and stuff like that, then you're more likely to be overweight. So there's actually a
Mm.
connection because of that. There's actually a connection with like ADD and overweight because of that.
Really? ADD? I did not know that. That's interesting. Huh. So like
But
a
yeah,
neural. Go ahead. So you
I was
go.
gonna say just to sort of expand, like, or let's say to springboard off of what was just brought up in terms of this aspect of food noise. So I don't know if this is actually like a fully documented the scientific literature phenomenon, but these of the anecdotal reports that I've come across of like people taking these GLP-1 agonists, they seem to report of like, oh, it just sort of has like freed up my mind of like I'm like I don't have food on my mind like 24/7, or just like the mental energy that I'm expending thinking about food is just like gone down dramatically. Like
Mhm.
it sort of like has freed up some cognitive space in their mind, which is interesting.
That's
I think.
super interesting. Yeah, that's super interesting. Like I've never struggled being overweight. Um, so this is outside my experience. So like this idea, yeah, it was the food noise of these, I guess, this generalized background noise of cravings. Um, yeah, I mean, like I understand the concept of being hungry, right? But to be thinking about food, I think about food when I don't have food and I'm like starving, right? Like, but like beyond that, like food doesn't take up, any brain space. So it's curious to hear that some people are, hmm, that like that it just takes up that much of their life. Um, like I, hmm, yeah, I'll have to put some thought into this, because I've never heard of that before. So that's I think, and I think hearing stories like that, if what you're saying is accurate, which I'm sure it is, like in terms of your what you come across, like if that's accurate, I think that things like that would be interesting for the general public to understand, right? Because still, people always have trouble sympathizing with fat individuals,
Mhm.
and like not understanding like why they do the things that they do, right? They don't understand their relationship with food, um, and like if there is like a cognitive load that's happening here, right? That simply doesn't happen for other people. Like I just wouldn't have known that. Like no one had told me that. Like, I would not have known, even if I'm trying to be helpful to someone, right? Like
Even now that I
yeah.
have, now that this term has been introduced, and like even that it's been brought to my attention, it's even hard. I have no problem admitting like, it's hard for me to even like conceptualize like what does that mean, or like what's going on in the mind of that person that's experiencing that, because like so,
Mm,
like, and again, or not again, but rather I've never struggled with being overweight. Like, but there are times where I have technically have been overweight, although that was somewhat intentional. And technically, I think I haven't measured my weight. And technically, I think according to BMI, I'm overweight now, but that's due for different reasons. Um, but uh, but like hearing this aspect of like this concept of food noise, and like this sort of like background, sort of like food on the mind, like yeah, that's hard for me to even like conceptualize like what is going on in the mind of that person. It's like what is that person experiencing that is almost certainly different than my experience. That
yeah.
that understandably, let's say, motivates them or affects their behavior to that extent. That clearly there's something going on there that is again, I assume is not going on with me for whatever reason that I can't explain.
Yeah, when I was obese, it was like it was during the pandemic, so it definitely contributed like to stress eating a lot. And I basically would see food, then eat food, and then kind of like and then I would eat, and then I wouldn't feel full because of it. And then I would go do something else, and then like 15, 20, 30 minutes later, walk by the pantry door again and be like, open it up and be like, ooh, more food. And then just eat again, you know? So it's just constantly just like, ooh, food I can eat, you know? It's not like, do I need to eat? Do I have to eat right now? It's more like, can I eat? Like, yeah, of course I can. You know, I can eat this. Then, you know, as you create that kind of like your stomach expands, you kind of like you can eat more. And then you know, as like with ADD, you kind of like that constant like dopamine drip kind of feels um like better, right? And so you just are constantly in that loop of just and your dopamine's serotonin's flooding your system when you're eating, so you just kind of like recursively go through it. It's not like I gotta eat right now. I gotta eat right now. It's just like, oh, you're going by and I haven't thought about it. Oh, that looks good. You're like, oh, I can eat a bar or whatever.
And if you're able to, if you want to say, like, do you feel like your experience now is like different, or is it like you're having the same thoughts, so to speak, or the same subjective experience, but now you're able to like modify the behavior outcome better, or you also don't have to say if you're, but like I'm not even
Um,
sure my question is answerable, but
Basically now I have the same thoughts, but I allow myself to have as much as I want of like vegetables and seedless, you know, seedless peppers and cucumbers and pickles and all that kind of stuff. So I have that same thing, but like I've enjoyed kind of like, and I'll allow, you know, I'll be like, yeah, of course you can have as many, you know, pickles as you want. Because like try to eat 100 calories of cucumbers or pickles. Like it's just not
that's probably
possible.
like 10 jars of
It's
pickles.
impossible. Like it's literally impossible. But you know, like a little protein bar or whatever, you know, and the problem is like my kids and stuff, we have like snacks and stuff for them. So then I thoughtlessly like, especially if I get like lifted or something, I'm just like at the end of the day, you know, where I have no like self control, then I'll just kind of like start pounding them, you know, and then I'm like, oh shit, that was just like 500 calories of freaking of these like candy bars. I'm like, oh dang, but uh, so it's tough, man. It is. I mean, it is tough. But at the same time, like I've picked up lifting like substantially more, so I'm like weightlifting like 5 days a week. So like if I do go over in my calories, right, I'm like making sure I get my protein and then I'm going over on my carbs. So it's like, okay, you know, a couple of days a week, if that happened, you know, like I'm just kind of like doing like a little mini bulk, you know, or whatever. As long as I don't go too far, then it's fine. You know, so again, like it there really is like putting the weightlifting in there, really pushing yourself that way, kind of like it saves you if you're cutting. It saves you if you're bulking accidentally and you're eating too much, because then now it's like you're just making more protein, making more, you know, making more muscle. So it really is. That's what I'm saying. Where it's like if we did have a culture of prioritizing that, talking more about that. If people on the left like talked more about um, working out and promoted that kind of stuff, you know, I think that it would be better. It would be genuinely would be better for a whole host of reasons.
I definitely agree there. And so if I'm understanding what you said correctly, if I'm understanding maybe your experience better, it's like it sounds like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, of like, let's say, sort of this aspect of like food noise is still there, but you've redirected it to healthier things like
Yeah,
cucumbers and all that stuff. Okay,
exactly. Yeah,
fair enough.
because now it's like I basically like went on this huge thing where I was like, oh, I like cucumber, like I like pickled stuff now. So then I was just, I just have like a whole host of like different types of pickled things, pickled carrots, pickled asparagus, you know. So it's just kind of like I'll kind of like get that novelty, you know, through that. I'll do the Grillo spears, do like the hot pickles. I've never even had those before until recently. They're incredible. So yeah, just like trying to keep it new and fresh and exciting, but with healthier foods. And I think that that's just kind of like like a long-term healthy habit, you know?
That is very interesting to me. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but
yeah. You just gotta, but at the same time, dude, like I really do think as long as you're like weightlifting, it creates this like I mean, 2 nights ago I got lifted and polished off a little personal thing of like ice cream that was in the freezer for like 2 months. So it's like, you know what I mean? And I was looking at it, it's probably like 300 calories of stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like. So I tried to like, do the data analytic part of my brain where I start tracking my calories, and if I have shame in putting it into my macro factor kind of like tracking app, that's like some friction in my brain that's like, well, this is kind of a good, probably shouldn't be eating this. You know what I mean? If I'm like trying to scan, I'm like looking, just like setting it up, like setting the QR code to scan that UPC, and I don't want to do it. It's like, let's not do that.
But putting it into the app makes it real.
Yeah, dude, for real. If I'm too ashamed to like log it, then like, because that's the thoughtless eating thing, right? Where you like thoughtlessly eat it and then you eat it and then you go away and then that's done. But now I have to like think about that. I have to like scroll back and I like see that and I'm like, oh
there's actual like meaningful or actionable like
yeah,
accountability of like I have to do this
exactly.
thing in order to justify eating this thing,
Yeah,
type
I think
thing.
that's the biggest thing. Like when I got obese, it was during the pandemic, and I had honestly just stopped thinking about it. I was like, I was my wife was pregnant at the time, and we had just when the world shut down, we had just got a full keg. So we had like a homebrew keg that we used to homebrew. So we had like a kegerator, and I had a full 15-gallon keg of like a nice IPA, and I was like, so it was that, and then the pandemic hit, and like World of Warcraft Classic was popping off, and it was just like an amalgamation of just like 6 to 8 beers a night plus gaming until 3 or 4 a.m. plus like not working out plus overeating plus the stress of the pandemic, and it's just like all these bad factors that are all coming together, and it's just so yeah, man. I mean, that's a part of me that exists in my brain.
Well, that's not maybe again I might have this food noise as well, but like so, but like and I enjoy, but also to be clear, I probably almost certainly have some aspect of disordered eating or let's say not the healthiest relationship with the food because due to the nature of my condition, Crohn's disease, like I've gone periods of like not eating for 2 weeks because like I had no choice but to do that.
Oh wow.
Or like due to being hospitalized or whatnot. But so like and like my cues for appetite are like all over the place. Of like I pretty much like I don't I pretty much like hunger is not really a thing for me anymore. I don't like my hunger cues are just like non-existent. Um, but like I have no problem saying of like when you brought up this that you just polished off a huge thing of ice cream. I've totally done that. Like, and I'm talking about like like whatever you're like Ben and Jerry's, your Haagen Dazs, like this is
Yeah.
like this thing here is like 10,000 calories. Okay, I've totally gone through that. But I let's say that's one of the reasons why like I run a lot. I probably run to like an unhealthy degree of like and one of the reasons why I run is like to justify, so to speak, in my mind my unhealthy windows of unhealthy eating of like I can consume this 10,000 calories because like throughout this week I have burned 10,000 calories by running it off,
Hmm.
which is probably also not the healthiest thing to do either.
I think that's real, man. I think that you kind of like buy it. I mean, I think working out also, like doing the hard work of like like lifting weights and stuff. All like for me, I mean, again, I mean, who else can I speak for? But like for me, I think of like, wow, I did that hard work. I'm not going to waste it by doing this awful thing. It's like easier for me to eat well after I've worked out because it's like I've already done the hard thing. So it seems easier to do it like, but again, man, like I think that it's I don't know how, and I'm jealous. I'm like jealous that like right wing spaces somehow have like dominated this like healthy obviously they're not, but like the healthy, the gym, thing. Like I don't understand. Like there are tons of us that lift and that are that are, in martial arts or combat sports or whatever, like sports in general.
Absolutely.
But like there seems to be a lot less of us. Just in
Yeah,
general.
or just they're not willing to put themselves out there because, like, you know,
Yeah.
I go to the gym. I'm not a bodybuilder, okay, but I go to the gym like virtually every single day, and whatever. I'm definitely not in the worst shape in the world, but like,
Corey is reputation. Oh no.
your words, not mine, okay. But I go to the gym, and I know many people at the gym, and like I'm left leaning, and like a lot of the people, my friends at the gym, as far as I can tell. Okay, obviously I don't do a deep dive into the politics as much as I do here, but from what I gather, like there are absolutely many left leaning people at the gym, men, women, and however it is, of everything that you can imagine that exists. But like, yeah, I agree with you. That is it's mildly frustrating that the stereotype is like, yes, the yeah, the healthy people are on the conservative side, or the people obsessed with health, building muscle or whatever, doing the quote unquote masculine things is only owned by the right or conservative side. That is like, yeah.
Yeah, it
Silly.
feels like it's like like it like we're right wing people are more inclined to think that individuals can have a huge impact in your individual life versus like a left leaning person's more likely to think about like institutions and that kind of thing. And it's like I think that I think you can do both. You can be critical of the institution. You can be critical of like observe that like food deserts exist and things like that. But then also you have like some power in your individual everyday life in order to have some impact in your life. So I think that that's kind of like what happens. Just people kind of like fall into it.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely that aspect for sure. I agree with where, let's just say, on some niche portions of the left, there's maybe a little bit of leaning too much into a learned helplessness aspect.
Yeah.
I think it's probably
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
unhealthy.
Exactly. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's very true.
But at the end of the day, I don't judge these people for maybe understandably given their conditions having that mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. The dietitians, like, the right wing people are making up their own bogus claims. Also, like I've heard someone else in chat when I was talking about this was like, we work out, we just don't make it in our entire personality, which I
True,
think
true, yes.
it's also true. So, but yeah, it's weird, man. But yeah, otherwise, guys, I feel like I don't know. I think that so many people are gonna want this stuff in the future that it's gonna be available like so widely that especially now in the last couple of months they've done there's only like a 15% efficacy decrease with the oral GLP-1 agonists now.
Right.
So I feel like that's what everyone. I mean, you either do like a shot once a week or you do your tablet every day. So people that are needle phobic and stuff, they're gonna jump on it.
I mean, it's probably only a matter of time before like the oral route has equal efficacy. I'm sure it's in the pipeline of like
Yeah, exactly.
it's going to match the inject or even surpass it. There's lots of research being done on these things now to optimize them, and like yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, I think they are. Yeah, they're in the pipeline. I think, I don't know how like we would as a culture like incentivize or kind of like pay. How would we pay people to like maybe decrease healthcare costs? Maybe if you're like have a 24/7, a 24-hour fitness like a membership, you could like be subsidized, or you could your part of your health
We
insurance
already
pays.
have stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of those programs exist.
Do they?
I mean,
Or
they're not
maybe
necessarily universalized. Go ahead.
maybe United. Well, yeah. Okay. Maybe there is some uh, private plan out there, but like that is something that I wish was implemented at a more whatever governmental level or in a public healthcare setting of like, you know, uh,
A tax break.
yeah, but like I know it's hard to implement of like whatever or like gym memberships like should be free or something to that
Okay.
effect or
Mm,
like public accessible
yeah.
gyms and all that stuff uh, because it's like yeah I'm more in favor of more carrot and less stick.
I've never considered that. That's actually an interesting idea. And you know how I like to nationalize things. But like publicly accessible gyms, like, in fact, no, actually, no. There's a memory here that's like unlocking. I think there was like discussions about this, like there's a history that is lost of like of another way to express public health, like through gyms. I have to put some. Yeah, I know. I think someone wrote a book about this or something, and I heard them speak about it. But it's too far in my past that I can't like
Fair enough.
express it to you. But this idea seems like a really interesting idea, right? Like, yeah, why should we have these things called like gym memberships? Like we understand like the way that we are um the government oftentimes sees us are like as workers who like continue on the nation, right, through our labor. Okay, well then you should take care of your workforce, right? Take care of your citizenry, because that leads to like big dividends in the end, right? Like we're healthier, they're more able to engage in society. They're more able to engage within the private market, right? They are able to, like create businesses or like whatnot, right? They're more productive,
Absolutely.
and so it would be like it it would be to your benefit, even if you didn't care about these individual people, right? To make these people healthier. But like we are such in a private market first solutions, right? Like that that we don't consider. Yeah, what if we just like provided people with gym memberships? What if we just like lower the barrier of entry as much as possible
Oh yeah,
so
you have
people can.
public libraries filled with books.
Yeah,
I don't see why you can't just. I mean, you just tack on a
exercise
gym
your
to a
mind,
library.
exercise your
Like I don't.
body.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, they have
Yeah.
the public parks. They have, at least in California, they'll have like those body weight kind of like calisthenics gyms that are
Yeah,
like
they have those here in my city as well. But well, one, I'm in Montreal, Quebec, and those are not. Well, I guess they're technically accessible at more, minus 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, but many people are not going to those calisthenic gyms in the middle of winter.
sucks to suck, dude. It's they're open 24/7 here.
But
Yeah, they're
like, yeah,
just
but
like,
that's like the lowest of like you're just setting up a bunch of like metal bars and maybe some
yeah,
grass and all that stuff.
it's hard,
But
dude.
like,
It's a really hard workout. It's hard to know the progressive exercises in order to know that.
it
I know
is,
that
but
I
that's
know
like
we have.
setting up a bookcase. Like I was like, I don't know, see why if we can have public libraries, we can't have like a public gym. Okay,
It's a good analogy. It's good. Um, I know, like yeah. I mean, we subsidize like in California. We do a bunch of the jujitsu kids get their memberships paid for by the state because that's their PE. So I think that's also kind of like an interesting thing. I mean, that's like it was like $175 a month they're getting, I either like partially or taken care of.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I mean I like it. I like the idea of putting more into public health,
Yeah.
in particular because I think it's just so useful, and it transforms how we think. I think public health is interesting because it transforms how we like interact with the public, like from the governmental perspective, right? That we uh, instead of looking at these problems as atomized, right, as individualized, right, as like your own failures, we understand that like there's all kinds of reasons why people are in the state that they are, right?
Absolutely.
And through interventions, we can help, right, on a mass scale. And those like benefits rebound, like again, ways that are obvious and like things that we can measure, things that we can't measure, right? Like, I mean, for instance, like a parent who is in a better body, meaning a healthier mind's set, meaning which allows them to better interact with their children, right? Because they aren't depressed, maybe they can actually deal with emotional needs of their children, and that like rebounds into the
Has all
future.
these
Like,
knock-on effects. Absolutely, I agree
yeah,
with you. That's
exactly.
like I've even contemplated this system of like, if or when, highly unlikely, but if or when people actually trust the government, okay. I know pretty much an almost impossible task, but in this utopian world, if or when people trust the government, and we have now the technology, or let's say in 10, 20 years, we have the perfect technology, the implantable technology that tracks your biomarkers, okay, in real time, tracks your hormones, tracks maybe the calories that you burned. I don't see why, okay, like you cannot just go to the gym and it's like, oh, if the data is there, if like you just burned like 500 calories in an hour, you just get like a check from the government. I don't see why.
That's a good point. Right? I like, yeah, that's actually interesting. The data tracking and stuff. I mean, yeah,
I don't know about that.
Exactly. That's what I said. If or when we ever get to the place of people trusting the government, but I agree
No,
that
it's not the trusting the government; it's trusting the people. Because I people would get that system like crazy.
well,
Um,
that's what I'm saying. Assuming the technology is not like hackable, like I'm just saying, like this is.
that's a big assumption. That's a
No,
big.
I'm pretty sure we can develop this technology. Okay, and I mean,
It's
like, I even then, unless it's like demonstrably proven that like 50% of the people are like gaming the system, I'm okay with like 5% or 10%
I'm
of
okay
people.
with some people, certainly. Yeah. I don't think that like because some people somewhere might be using a system fraudulently, we have to dismantle the system, right? We only have that thought when that system is helping poor people. Um like when it's about Medicare, when it's about Social Security. Yes, we have that thought. Oh my God, someone somewhere has like taken advantage of the system, right? We're talking about government subsidies to corporations or massive tax incentives, right? We seem to be a lot less concerned that someone somewhere, a rich businessman, is cheating the system. So like, so I'm agreeing with my friend Corey here on this note that like, yeah, I'm fine with some level of fraud with these systems. We should, of course, try to lower it whenever we can. But like that. The way that's used, especially in like conservative circles. Oh my God, can you believe it? Right? Some black person might not have earned their $110 check for food, per month. Oh my God. Meanwhile, we were starting a war. Billions lost here, wasted. And then, like all these ideas that our friend Corey and Dr. Greg are coming up with here, right? They'll tell them in a very serious tone of voice, right? Like, you just don't understand. We're broke.
Again, how do you pay for all these things? How do you pay for these
How?
bombs?
How? Like, yeah, there's no room in the budget. And so like, uh, okay, I'm gonna leave it there because otherwise I'm just gonna get angry. I'm start ranting.
I understand.
that sounds good. All right. Well, good, awesome week, guys. I appreciate the talk as always. Do you guys want to do your
Likewise.
shout outs and outros?
Yeah, go for it, Prime.
Prime Kai PRIMECAYES. Find me right there. On YouTube, on Twitch, on Kick, on TikTok, technically. And also Twitter, technically. But yeah, especially on the first three: YouTube, Twitch, Kick. Come give me a follow if you enjoyed this conversation. Dorito, you did follow me previously. If you're still out there, I know you did last week. I just didn't see your message. But thank you for the follow. That's awfully kind of you. Yeah, we'd love to have you.
And you can find me, Corey, on Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. And then The Outliers is also on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84. And as always, a pleasure.
Nice, man. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Have a good one. I'll see you next Friday.
Absolutely. Take care. Be well. Have a good one.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Maddie Holmes, welcome. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well. And thank you, everyone, for passing by. One thing I wanted to show that I was talking about, 1 second. So yeah, so if anybody remembers and is still around during the conversation, I brought up this molecule here, as in like this was used by bodybuilders way back in the day, around the 1920s, 1930s, as they say here, for weight loss. Okay, and this was actually at one point, briefly, an approved weight loss drug or supplement, but then they quickly found out that this boosts your metabolism to such a degree that people essentially end up overheating. But the case study of this is actually quite interesting, and what it's actually doing at a biochemical level is also quite interesting. But basically, it's really pretty much supercharging your metabolism to such a degree that your body essentially overheats, and there have been a number of fatalities associated with this compound, people taking it for the purposes of cutting weight, and I think it's currently banned for human consumption. But let's just say research labs still use it because it actually has some legitimate uses in a research setting. But I think it's, as of now, legally speaking, in most countries, banned for human consumption. But yeah, I think everyone should read this Wikipedia article because I think it's super interesting. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for passing by. Overused Chew Toy, Maddie Holmes, Orange Hugh. Anybody else that I forgot, I apologize. But yeah, should be back next week to, again, cover some topics related to the MAHA and MAGA movement. And until next week, take care and be well.